Thank you for being wide awake. Thank you for paying attention. Stu and I were just talking off air, and he just said to me, you know, these aren't long-term plans anymore or problems. These are happening right now.
It's really scary. I talked to Brian Riedel from the Manhattan Institute yesterday just about the debt. You mentioned it quickly as one of the problems, and it seems like it's way down the road.
It's not.
It's not down the road. The government had an opportunity to lock in our debt at 1.8% long term. This is a year ago. Now, Brian, who came on my show and said this at the time multiple times, screamed about it, yelled about it. Nobody listened to him. We didn't lock in long-term debt. Instead, we basically stayed on the equivalent of an adjustable mortgage, right? Hey, we'll keep it where it is now. We don't need to lock it in. What if it goes down to 1.5? We'd be stupid to get it at 1.8. So they kept it on adjustable rate mortgages. Now it's gone up to, I think, already 3.8.
Heavens.
Again, to remind you, for each percentage point that these rates go up, it costs us $30 trillion over 30 years. So about $1 trillion a year.
For every point. It's gone up 2 points.
Already.
We generally have been running a budget. Last year, it was $6.8 trillion. But we only take in about $3 trillion, I think, when we're really going gangbusters, in taxes. We've been spending about $4 trillion every year. That means that today, just with the interest rates, we have $2 trillion of interest alone.
Yeah, we're not getting anything for that.
No.
It's important to understand. We've already spent that money. So this is just your rates going up.
Half of the money that you pay for income tax, half of it should go to just pay the loan. Just pay the interest on the loan.
Money we've already spent.
Correct. Years ago, maybe even decades ago. Mm-hmm. So your $2 trillion, they're not going to cut our budget by $2 trillion. They're not going to do it. They'll instead, if it's a $4 trillion budget and we have $2 trillion on top, we'll just take out another $2 trillion loan for the interest. This is how you get to hyperinflation. We must cut our spending. Time is out. We are at the end of the road, gang. We're at the end of the road. This election is so important. By the way, I just mentioned this, but I also mentioned the U.S. strategic oil reserves. Try this on for size. During the Trump administration, Trump had negotiated with U.S. oil producers to use shale to fully fill the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve for $24 a barrel. Okay? Well, the Democrats went crazy and they blocked that plan. Schumer bragged, going, yeah, you know what? We just blocked a bailout for big oil. $24 a barrel is what he had negotiated. Biden's Green New Deal policies have now effectively blocked all new U.S. oil production and imports since he took office, from the Keystone Pipeline to issuing fewer new oil releases to exploratory permits on federal lands. He's done more than any president has done since World War II in the wrong direction. He has spent the last month begging OPEC, and especially Saudi Arabia, to keep OPEC production at all-time highs, okay? He went over there. They wouldn't even take his phone call, so he had to actually go over and grovel in front of the Crown Prince. Now, the Crown Prince, remember, is the guy who they say killed that reporter, Khashoggi. And during his campaign, he said, enough of Saudi Arabia. They killed Khashoggi, and that's crime. That's a crime, and we will hold him accountable. So now he's got to go stand or kneel at the feet of that guy. And what did he say? I'm really, really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. And if you would just keep the OPEC production going, I'll grant you diplomatic immunity from U.S. prosecution for the murder of Khashoggi. Wait, what? You could open things up and you could have the oil here You go back to the Trump deal, I'm sure, $24 a barrel for shale oil. You won't do it, so you will go to not only beg at the feet of Saudi Arabia, but you will offer him immunity. This was one of the big things that the Democrats wanted. How dare Trump? He's not going to do anything about the murder of Khashoggi. Oh my gosh, he's a murderous animal. And the Prince of Saudi Arabia is bad too. And what does he do? Biden goes over and says, by the way, we won't prosecute you on that. And they still not only say no to him, they cut production by 2 million barrels a day.
It's important to note, too, before this trip, they were threatening to cut it 1 million barrels per day. And then he made this trip, he begged them, he offered them all these things, and then they cut it by 2 million barrels per day. Think about this. Could there be a more incompetent person than Joe Biden? I don't know. I mean, maybe he's doing it all on purpose, and he's very competent. I don't know. But he's not acting in the best interest of the United States, or he's not capable of doing it. One of the two.
No. You know, if Donald Trump were doing this, or if anyone was doing this 6 years ago, everybody would be like, whoa. You're arresting people who are praying and singing in front of abortion clinics. Okay, maybe we're just going to ignore that. But we wouldn't be going in guns a-blazing with an FBI raid when it locally had been dismissed. We would never put up with these gas prices. We would have never put up with Afghanistan and then the politicizing of our troops. We would never, ever, no Democrat, I can't say no Democrat, no traditional liberal would have ever said, yeah, double mastectomy for 12-year-olds. I'm good with that. Oh, we got to cut his penis off? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. He's 8. Why not? Nobody would say that. No one would say that. And now we're apparently okay with it. That's interesting. You trust these people? And, you know, I made a list today of the most important races out there. And I wanted to talk to you about it, Stu, because you might disagree. But I think the most important race out there is the Fetterman-Oz race. And here's why I say that.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a big fan of Oz. I mean, if I lived in Pennsylvania, yep, I'd be voting for him. But not a big fan of him necessarily. But what does it say about the people in Pennsylvania that they will put a guy in who is clearly damaged? I have great sympathy in my family. My grandfather had a stroke. My daughter had strokes. I understand strokes, and I have great sympathy. But I wouldn't have put my grandfather into the Senate. Okay? I wouldn't do it. I love him, love my daughter, but if you can't function like he can't in a quick debate where there's lots of noise, especially at a time where the president is saying, yeah, we might be in Armageddon, soon. What time is it now? This is the most critical time in American history. And the people of Pennsylvania are even considering Fetterman?
The Eagles are so much better than the Eagles.
This is supposed to be our greatest deliberative body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what it says to me? It says that we've given up.
Yeah,
if they put
given
John
up paying
Fetterman
attention.
I mean, this is like we've flushed it. We've pulled the plug out of the wall. We're waiting for the heart to stop beating. Like, this is over. We've just given up.
We do not have a constitutional republic. That's why I think this is the most important one, because it says something about Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania voters. Really? You're that apathetic, that uninformed, or that much just past a republic that you're like, whatever. It doesn't matter.
This is not an ideological split. In fact,
No.
you'd look at Dr. Oz, if anything, and say he's not particularly ideological, right? I mean, he was not the guy we talked about as like, this is a great conservative voice. We need to make sure Dr. Oz gets in because his positions on taxes are so important. Like, I mean, he's a good communicator. Obviously, he's had a very accomplished career and has a lot of things you could argue on his side. But like, he's not a guy that you'd say, oh my gosh, we can't put him in because he's too conservative. That's not there's no real argument there.
No.
It's just, you have a guy.
He should appeal to the middle of the road voter, the middle Democrat that is like, you know what? I don't want any of the crazies. He should appeal to those people.
And then on the other side, you have a Bernie Sanders supporter. A guy who wants to defund the police, a guy who is on the extreme left wing of the AOC branch of the party, and because he wears a hoodie and is tall and overweight, we're supposed to just dismiss this? This is the ideological candidate here. When he can think, all he does is think like Marx. And we're going to put that guy in the Senate.
At this time,
he's not even capable of doing the socialist shtick right now.
Now, this should tell you something about the Democratic supporters. He has doubled his fundraising record this quarter over last quarter. Doubled his fundraising.
Fetterman.
It's come in from all over the country. So there are Democrats who are paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
And they are sending money to that guy.
Well, if he gets in, he'll be a socialist, essentially. So that's obviously something they want. And you might say, well, how can they want a guy who is incapable of really doing anything at this point? Even, I mean, walking around and talking seems very difficult for the guy.
Yep.
But of course, this is why he's getting so much money from the Democrats. They want the seat. Yeah. They want a socialist in there. And also, they know he can't campaign on his own. So everything they're doing is this sort of like spending a fortune on people in their social media team to come up with new insults for where Dr. Oz used to live. What kind of platter is he buying at Wegmans? And this is their entire campaign.
And it absolutely shows that the people who are funding, the people who are really running this show on the left, do not care about a republic. You cannot care about a republic, a democratic republic, where the people elect somebody who says, this person can speak for me. You cannot make that case when the guy cannot speak because he can barely think. You don't want that. You want a rubber stamp. That's not a republic. Which one of us hates the Constitution? Which one of us is the radical? Which one of us is pushing for a new style of America? And which one of us is saying, this doesn't work. It hasn't worked for a long time. Let's look at the things that do work, reestablish those, and get rid of all the stuff that doesn't work. Let's use common sense and logic. Oh, I forgot. There is no logic. There is no common sense because in America, there is no longer any truth.